Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Donald Trump says US had very good and productive discussions with Russian President on ceasefire deal in Ukraine. Adds good vibes coming out of Russia. Putin too praises Trump. Head of the ISIS in Iraq and Syria killed in Iraq in coordinated operation involving US, Iraqi and Kurdish forces. India slams Pakistan at UN for unjustified claims. Indian envoy says Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. President Putin said that Russia will spare the lives of Ukrainian soldiers in its western Kursk region if Kyiv orders them to surrender. Putin's remarks came after US President Donald Trump urged him to avoid a horrible massacre there. A report.
Diplomatic efforts are underway to end Russia-Ukraine conflict. On Friday, US President Donald Trump said United States has held productive talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on ceasefire deal. Trump wrote, "We had a very good and productive discussions with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, and there is a very good chance that this horrible, bloody war can finally come to an end. But at this very moment, thousands of Ukrainian troops are completely surrounded by the Russian military and in a very bad and vulnerable position. I have strongly requested to President Putin that their lives be spared." Trump said he sees good news coming out of Russia and he thinks Russia will make a deal on the Ukraine war.
We've had some pretty good news coming out of Russia. We're hearing good things. Who knows? But we're hearing good things. They're in a very strong position militarily with quite a few Ukrainian soldiers, but hopefully nothing will happen with that. I've asked them not to let anything happen, and I hope that nothing happens. In the field, there's a very vulnerable group of Ukrainian soldiers right now that are actually surrounded. And that's not good, because we don't want them to die. Enough people have died. So we'll see what happens with regard to all of it. But I'm getting, from the standpoint about a ceasefire and ultimately a deal, some pretty good vibes coming out of Russia.
In response, Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that Russia will guarantee the safety of Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region if they surrender.
At the same time, we understand President Trump's call to be guided by humanitarian considerations with respect to these servicemen. In this regard, I would like to emphasize that if they lay down their arms and surrender, they will be guaranteed life and decent treatment in accordance with international law and the laws of the Russian Federation. For the effective implementation of the US President's call, a corresponding order from the military political leadership of Ukraine for its military units to lay down their arms and surrender is necessary.
A US proposal for a 30-day interim ceasefire has already been accepted by Ukraine.
A lot of diplomacy, a lot of negotiations that can bring peace closer. Now on the table is the American proposal of unconditional silence in the sky, at sea and on the front. Ukraine accepts this proposal. Rapid movements towards guaranteed security, towards the end of this war, towards a reliable peace. Our team works very well at the meeting in Saudi Arabia. Contacts with the American sides are ongoing.
While Moscow said it would only agree to if certain conditions were met. French President Emmanuel Macron said on Friday that Russia must accept a proposed 30-day ceasefire deal. On battlefield, Russia announced on Friday that its forces had recaptured another settlement in the Kursk region previously held by Ukraine. Russia's emergency services also released image showing the evacuation of civilians from Sudza. However, Ukraine has denied its forces in Kursk were encircled, describing the claim as a Russian fabrication. Ukraine also held a march on Volunteer Day of Ukraine in central Kiev on March 14. Activists of nationalist youth groups took part in the procession. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin also praised Trump for doing everything to improve US-Russia relations.
We know that the new administration headed by President Trump is doing everything to restore at least something of what was practically reduced to zero, destroyed by the previous American administration. This process is not simple, if not complicated, but nevertheless, as everyone knows. I had a telephone conversation with President Trump. The first contacts of our Minister of Foreign Affairs with his American counterpart took place, and the Russian presidential aide Ushakov met with his counterparts. So in general, the situation is starting to move. Let us see what comes out of it.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has said the alliance's members needed to produce more weapons and were lagging behind Russia and China. Speaking in the Oval Office during a visit with President Donald Trump, Rutte said the alliance was not doing enough on the issue of weapons production.
We need to produce more weaponry. We are not doing enough. And not in the US, not in Europe, and we are lagging behind when you compare to the Russians and the Chinese. And you have a huge defense industrial base. Europeans buying 4 times more here than the other way around, which is good because you have a strong defense industry, but we need to do more there to make sure that we ramp up the production. The Germans now.
Shifting focus to Europe, Germany's likely next Chancellor Friedrich Merz on Friday announced a deal to drastically overhaul the country's debt rules to allow a boom in defense and security spending as well as 500 billion euros in infrastructure investment in the coming 12 years. His Conservatives and their prospective Social Democrat coalition partners reached agreement with the Greens to exempt spending above 1% of GDP on defense and security.
Es ist die klare Botschaft an unsere Partner.
Germany is back. Germany is making a major contribution to the defense of freedom and peace in Europe. We agreed on the proposal that defense spending, but also federal spending on civil protection and protection of the population, spending on the intelligence services, spending on security and information and technology, and spending on aid for states attacked in violation of international law should be exempt from the debt brake to the extent that they exceed 1% of our country's gross domestic product.
In den nächsten Wochen stehen Deutschland.
In a dramatic turn of events, the US Senate passed a stopgap spending bill on Friday, averting a partial government shutdown. The bill, which was approved 54-46, will now head to US President Donald Trump's desk for signature.
Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider
The move comes after Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer broke the logjam, deciding to vote for the bill despite opposition from his party. Schumer's decision was driven by concerns that a government shutdown would be catastrophic. The bill will maintain spending at $6.75 trillion, in fact, for the fiscal year ending September 30. However, will cut spending by $7 billion. The US military will receive an additional $6 billion, while non-defense programs will be reduced by $13 billion. Schumer's move has sparked criticism from within his party, with many Democrats expressing anger over the bill. The move has also exposed deep divisions within the party. The US military killed the top ISIS leader known as Abu Khadija and another ISIS operative in an airstrike conducted in cooperation with Iraq. Taking to social media platform Truth, US President Donald Trump shared the news. The US Central Command said that strike took place on Thursday and a DNA test confirmed the deceased identity as Abu Khadija. The ISIS chief was Global ISIS II leader who maintained responsibility for operations, logistics and planning conducted by ISIS globally. India slammed Pakistan at UN for its unjustified claims. Delivering India's statement at the meeting to commemorate the International Day to Combat Islamophobia, India's permanent representative to the UN, P. Harish, said that Jammu and Kashmir was, is and will always be an integral part of India.
The former Foreign Secretary of Pakistan today has made an unjustified reference to the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Frequent references will neither validate their claim nor justify their practice of cross-border terrorism. The fanatical mindset of this nation is well known, as also its record of bigotry. Such efforts will not change the reality that Jammu and Kashmir was, is and will always be an integral part of India.
While condemning the religious intolerance against Muslims, the Indian envoy also noted that religious discrimination is a broader challenge that affects followers of all faiths.
We stand united with the UN membership in condemning incidents of religious intolerance against Muslims. However, it's also imperative to recognize that religious discrimination is a broader challenge that affects followers of all faiths. We strongly believe that the path to meaningful progress lies in acknowledging that religiophobia in its various forms threatens the fabric of our diverse global society.
Protesters show rage on the eve of a mass demonstration in Belgrade as they rally against the government of President Aleksandar Vučić. The protests, which began in November, were sparked by the collapse of a railway station roof in Novi Sad that killed 15 people. Protesters expressed frustration and anger, calling end of corruption. Demonstrators blame the disaster on corruption under Vučić's rule. The movement has gained momentum, with students, teachers, farmers and workers joining the demonstrations, posing a significant challenge to Vučić's 12-year tenure as Prime Minister or President. Serbian authorities expect an even larger protest, expected to be the largest in Serbia over a decade. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić has called for peace to be preserved at any price, urging restraint and stability.
The state of Serbia will take all necessary measures to guarantee peace. Those who disturb the peace will be arrested and severely punished. I will not allow anyone to destroy all the good things we have done. I will not allow them to destroy the future of this country.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has said his country and Azerbaijan will not deploy third country forces along their border after the two sides sign a peace agreement. Pashinyan briefed Russian President Vladimir Putin on a finalized draft peace agreement with Azerbaijan in a phone call. Earlier, officials in Yerevan and Baku said they had agreed the text of a peace agreement to end more than 3 decades of conflict between their countries, a sudden breakthrough in a fitful and often bitter peace process. Russian peacekeepers completed a withdrawal last May from Karabakh, a region in Azerbaijan that had mostly Armenian population and which Azeri forces recaptured in a lightning offensive in September 2023. But Moscow still has personnel in Armenia along its long border with Azerbaijan. Bolivia is facing a severe crisis with long queues forming in La Paz due to fears of scarcity of basic goods and a worsening fuel shortage. People have been lining up outside supermarkets since early morning to buy essential items at inflated prices, fearing that food may go out of stock. Citizens expressed frustration over the shortages and the long lines, drawing parallels with the economic struggles in Cuba and Venezuela. The government has introduced measures to mitigate the crisis, including reducing the use of official vehicles and promoting remote work and virtual classes. The fuel shortage has attributed to a decline in foreign currency reserves over the last decade and dwindling local gas production. Still to come on this edition of DD Live. Several homes destroyed as wildfires rage across Oklahoma. SpaceX and NASA launch mission to bring back astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore from International Space Station.
What is more important, fixing the present or planning for the future? Innovators across the globe rethinking the way we live to secure a better future for us.
I found out about the Rahi trade-in scheme. I went to the agency and discovered that I could receive a subsidy for this e-rickshaw.
We basically mirror that same process, but instead of water for one of our solutions, we use blocks, powering about 35,000 homes.
Our goal is to send a message that it's important to fight for better urban air quality. And I think Liquid 3 sends that message.
We prepare fish amino acid by mixing the fish waste with jaggery. It is also an excellent organic fertilizer for plants and trees.
We're moving from the lab stage to industrial scale production. We still have a few challenges to deal with, but we've seen that it works.
You're watching DD Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Wildfires destroyed several homes in the city of Stillwater across Oklahoma State on Friday. City's emergency management agency issued immediate evacuation orders to its residents as active wildfires burned in many areas of the city. As multiple fires continued to rage, thousands of residents were left without power. Number of highways were closed, making travel hazardous and difficult for the people for Oklahoma. Supporters gathered in large numbers in Seoul for impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol after a court decision to cancel Yoon's arrest warrant. The Constitutional Court is expected to announce whether it upholds the impeachment of Yoon this month over his declaration of martial law. The suspended president faces being removed from office if the court upholds parliament's impeachment. Yoon is facing trial on insurrection charges over a brief imposition of martial law. The United Kingdom has charged the Russian captain Vladimir Motin of a container ship that crashed into a US tanker in North Sea earlier this week. The Russian captain has been charged of manslaughter and gross negligence and will be presented in court on Saturday. The Solong vessel hit the Stena Immaculate tanker carrying military jet fuel at close to full speed off UK shore on Monday, causing huge fires and explosions and spilled jet fuel into the sea. The Trump administration is mulling a sweeping travel ban targeting citizens of over 40 countries, according to sources and an internal memo. The proposed ban would be broader than previous restrictions, with a red list of 11 countries whose citizens would be barred from entering the US. These countries include Afghanistan, Cuba, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen. An orange list of 10 countries would face restricted travel, with affluent business travelers potentially exempt. The list is subject to change as officials review and provide feedback. The administration's consideration of the expanded ban has sparked concerns about its potential impact on global relations and travel. Syria's Foreign Minister Asad al-Shabani visited Iraq on March 14, marking his first trip since Bashar al-Assad's fall. He urged Baghdad to reopen the border, which was shut after Assad's outing. Shabani emphasized that reopening the border would boost trade between the two nations. Iraq had closed the frontier due to security concerns after battling Islamic State militants from 2014 to 2017. Shabani reaffirmed Syria's commitment to working with Iraq in combating Islamic State, stating that security is shared responsibility. Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein echoed the need for international coordination in counter-terrorism efforts. Both sides stressed the importance of joint security measures to maintain regional stability.
The Cooperation Council is a cooperation council between the two parties, between the two countries, so that we can address all issues, whether security issues, coordination in the field of security, economic issues, political issues, and diplomacy. We look forward to the establishment of this council and to the upcoming meetings, whether in Damascus or in Baghdad.
وإلى الاجتماعات القادمة سواء في دمشق.
Security is a shared responsibility. We are ready to enhance cooperation with Iraq to combat ISIS along our borders. Terrorism knows no borders, and so must our efforts to eradicate it. The security of Iraq and the security of Syria, and vice versa.
Hamas has agreed to release an American-Israeli dual national believed to be the last living American hostage held in Gaza after receiving a proposal from mediators to continue negotiations on the second phase of a ceasefire deal. Hamas, in a statement on Friday, said that it responded positively to the proposal that was presented on Thursday to resume negotiations. It will also release the bodies of 4 other dual nationality hostages, it said, without giving further details. Israel, however, said Hamas had not budged following a proposal from US President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff. President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, told reporters at the White House early in March that gaining the release of Alexander was a top priority. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte appeared on a remote video link on Friday for his initial hearing at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where he faces murder allegations stemming from his war on drugs. Duterte arrived in the Netherlands on a flight from Manila on Wednesday and was taken into ICC custody after being arrested by authorities on an International Criminal Court warrant. Prosecutors have accused him of crimes against humanity for what they call a systematic attack on the civilian population. Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte claimed that her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, was kidnapped and illegally arrested after arriving in the Netherlands. Sara described the situation as kidnapping rather than legal extradition, accusing the ICC of forcibly taking her father to another country. Rodrigo Duterte arrived in the Netherlands after being arrested on an ICC warrant for crimes against humanity. During his initial appearance on Friday, his lawyer stated that he was too ill to give evidence.
If you talk to lawyers, they call it extraordinary rendition, but for a family member like me, that's kidnapping. Yeah. That's forcibly taking my father to another country and illegally arresting him. So that's clearly kidnapping.
Heavy rainfall caused widespread flooding and landslides in Italy's Tuscany and Emilia-Romagna on Friday, prompting authorities to extend a red weather alert. Streets have turned into torrents of mud, homes have been inundated, and rescue teams are working to evacuate people trapped by rising waters. In Sesto Fiorentino, the Rimaggio stream overflowed, flooding multiple buildings. President of Tuscany region, Eugenio Gianni, has called for civil protection assistance as weather conditions are expected to improve gradually, although risks persist in certain areas. US astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams are one step closer to returning home as NASA and SpaceX launched a long-awaited crew to the International Space Station, where the two have been stuck on the orbital lab for 9 months. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is carrying 4 astronauts who will replace Wilmore and Williams. They are scheduled to arrive at the ISS on Saturday. The duo was the first to fly Boeing's faulty Starliner capsule to the ISS in June last year, but the capsule returned to Earth without them amid concerns over the reliability of its systems.
You know, every crew that comes back goes through a fluid loading protocol just to make sure when they get back that their body is conditioned properly, but they'll go through all, there's nothing beyond what we'll normally do. They've done training already on the Dragon spacecraft while they've been on orbit to get familiar with the differences in the suits and the umbilicals and the seats and all that. So they'll be ready to come home when we're ready.
The Special Olympic Winter Games are ongoing in Italy's Turin, where the Indian contingent is taking part in 6 disciplines, including snowboarding, snowshoeing and alpine skiing. DD India correspondent Narayan Singh joins us from Italy's Turin. Well, Narayan, tell us, how's the excitement among athletes in Turin during the Special Olympics World Winter Games?
I'm here in the beautiful city of Turin, where the Special Olympic World Winter Games are underway, and the excitement here is at its peak. Talking about this event, this is more than just a sporting event, it's a celebration of resilience, determination and inclusion. Over 1,500 athletes from 102 countries gathered here to compete, and the energy is simply electrifying. And talking about India, India is proudly the part of the global movement of 49-member contingent, including 30 athletes representing the country in 6 different sports, showcasing their talent and determination. And apart from this, the competitions are taking place across some of the most stunning winter sports venues in the world. Talking about alpine skiing and snowshoeing, they are happening in the northern part of the Italy, that is Sastre, and snowboarding is Badonikia, and cross-country skiing in Pragilato. Right here in Turin, figure skaters are performing breathtaking routines, and floorball matches are keeping the crowd on the edge of their seat. And apart from this, India's athletes are making their presence felt. Floorball players Meena Kalchan, when we talked to her, she said that the excitement is great here, and she also said that the opportunity here is a dream come true for her. The team has been training hard and their passion is visible on the field. Meanwhile, India's speed skating team is also turning heads with their swift performance on the ice. They won 4 medals, 3 silver and 1 bronze, and their journey has been dedication and perseverance, proving that no obstacle is too big when you want to succeed in life.
Indeed, thank you so much, Nana. We leave it there. And the Women's Premier League 2025 final will be played between Delhi Capitals and Mumbai Indians on Saturday at the Brabant Stadium. This is the 3rd time in a row that Delhi Capitals have made it to the final of the 5-team tournament. And the Meg Lanning-led side is looking to win their first title. The Delhi Capitals versus Mumbai Indians battle is a repeat of the inaugural season's finale. The Mumbai Indians won the first season, while Royal Challengers Bengaluru won the second edition. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.